body on your body.
I wanna rub my body on your body.
I wanna rub and love up. I wanna rub and kiss up. I wanna rub and jam up. I wanna rub and rub up. I wanna rub my body on your body.
Rub my body on your body.
Let me rub my body.
Your body.
I just get paid. I want to play. The vibes is right. I wanna hug up tight. No time to waste. I wanna work my ways. So come on now, babes. Give me a taste. I wanna rub my body on your body.
I wanna rub my body on your body.
Let me rub my body on your body.
I wanna rub my body on your body.
I wanna rub and love up. I wanna rub and kiss up. I wanna rub and jam up. I wanna rub and rub up. I wanna rub my body on your body.
I wanna rub my body on your body.
Let me rub my body on your body.
I wanna rub my body on your body.
Well, you know, I'm feeling, 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 I'm feeling.
If you are looking to have your statutory declaration, affidavit of income, identity, damage or lost passport, lost license, tenancy agreement, agreement of settlement, power of attorney, last will and testament, and certification of documents, then you need to visit the Alistair Collins firm, located at the Killian Mall, 162 Lamaha Street, in Georgetown, between Camp and Waterloo Street. Alistair Collins is a commissioner of oaths and a justice of the peace. Make certain you visit him or call for more information at 649-6410 or 685-6448 or 503-1451. And there's adequate parking available. Go down to the Alistair Collins firm and have all of your legal issues settled and brought to the fore. Alistair Collins Firm. Contact them at Alistair Collins Firm.
That little ditty we used to torment our teachers with when we were kids goes something like this. Onward, upward, Mary had a go. Day by day she tied it to a rope, till at length they got busty rope, and Miss Mary had to run behind it. We had a lot of fun with that, but do you actually know how beautiful these words are? Here's the Song of Guyana's Children by W. Hawley Bryant. Born in the land of the mighty Roraima, land of great rivers and far-stretching sea, so like the mountains, the sea, and the river, great, wide, and deep in our lives would we be. Onward, upward, may we ever go. Day by day in strength and beauty grow, till at length we each of us may show what Guyana sons and daughters can be. Born in the land of Kaijur, shining splendor, land of the palm tree, the croton and fern, we would possess all the virtues and graces, we all the glory of goodness would learn.
All right. Hey, guess what? Good evening. My name is Mark Penshop. We're going to rock and roll for 1 hour. Maybe if you want us to go longer than that, who knows? We can possibly go longer than that because we have a lot of things we want to talk to you about this evening. Lots and lots of things. But let me first welcome all of you, especially those who are listening to us via 107.1 FM on the ground in Guyana, in Georgetown, in the outskirts of Georgetown, the folks out in BV, Liliendale, certain parts of the East Coast, the East Bank, and across the river as well, as we say, Parika side. All of you, good evening to all the folks in East and West and North of Georgetown, all of you. The people in Agricola, lots of folks in Agricola say, hey, good evening to the folks all across the world. And speaking of Agricola, you know, the death anniversary of Shaquille Grant was just the other day. Shaquille Grant was a little teenage boy who was murdered by members of the Guyana police force, brutally murdered by members of the Guyana police force. Those were some very, very dark days. And my heart goes out to those folks, the relatives of Shaquille Grant, as they celebrate or they remember that enterprising young man, brutally murdered by members of the Guyana police force. Hey, guess what? Lots of other things happening throughout Guyana. People are complaining about almost everything. Pandits are complaining. Majis are complaining, imams are complaining, pastors are complaining, apostles are complaining, reverends are complaining, everyone, even the sugar workers are complaining. Heard from some good friends at Alnis Village who are sugar workers. They are complaining. People out at Albion Estate and Rose Hall Estate in Kanji, all of those folks are complaining because things are going helter-skelter in Guyana. Got some folks who are complaining also. Tonight is not just that. Tonight is the complaining night. But if people are complaining, what do you want us to do? Our job is basically to tell you what folks are complaining about, not to write to cover up all the things that are happening in our beautiful country, mind you. And you know, when I say right to cover up, right to kiss up to the installed PPP regime, we don't do that here on 107.1 FM. Good evening to our producer, has a very, very interesting program this evening. Some of you may get emotional about it, but I warn you ahead of time, talking directly with one of the patients at the COVID-19 hospital. You've got to share the link because you've got to hear this exchange of conversation, several exchanges of conversations, mind you. It is not something that went on for prolonged 5-10 minutes, but pieces. You've got to hear it. It's heartbreaking. Just to give you a peek as to what happens, what transpires in that COVID-19 hospital. And I want to make this point lucidly clear, right? The point that I want to make clear is that I am, or 107.1 FM, we do not encourage belittling of our nurses or our doctors. And what we do here is not an attack on our nurses and our doctors. It is not. Whilst there might be some that are imperfect, It simply means that we're not painting all with the same brush. And why do we want to reveal what is happening at the ICU in the COVID-19 hospital? Is to save lives. And I want folks like Frank Anthony. Somebody give Frank Anthony a call. His cell number is, give Priya Manik Chan a call. Her cell number is, and give Irfan Ali a call. His cell number, they all begin with a 6, right? 62 something. Just the other day, Irfan Ali went to Essequibo and they cut or turned a saw or sod, whatever it is that they were digging up, right? And $2 billion they have announced. A spanking new hospital in Saudi. Spanking new hospital in Saudi. They would give you, they would try to give you the impression that it's something that when they got into office, and they did that, they came up with that idea. It's not true. In fact, it's the coalition. I don't know what why the coalition was a bit delayed in terms of getting that started. But I could understand what happened, because it doesn't make sense that you don't repair the health sector, which is what the coalition was doing. Hey, I have some issues with the coalition. I had some serious issues when they were in office. But darn well, kudos to those coalition folks, man. They meant well, particularly in the health sector and other sectors as well. But we are just dealing with the health sector for now, right? Port Morat Hospital was upgraded. Cariveton Hospital, and as you know, under Frank Anthony and Leslie Ramsamy and Barry Ramsaran and all those other guys, every single week, mothers were dying. Pregnant women, that is, were dying. Left, right, and center. Dying at childbirth. Lots of folks died. I know, we all remember. And you know why they were dying out like flies? It is because the PPPC regime, for the 23 years they have been in office, they never give a darn about the health sector. All over, people were crying and complaining. The equipment and so forth run down. Some of them old, some of them outdated and old, right? And some of them broken and all these things. Remember Port Morant Hospital, right? Remember Mybe Curie Hospital, right? Remember Wisma or Mackenzie Hospital. Remember Georgetown Public Hospital, Bartica Hospital, Latham Hospital, and so forth and so on. The story is horrible. Just remembering what the PPP did to the health sector. But yet these are the people who want to give you the impression that they are so concerned about the health sector, when in fact they're not. Now let's get back to Essequibo. $2 billion. And this is what Irfan Ali has said, that 254 beds, new equipment, and all these different things. That's what they're talking about. They want to basically spread that propaganda and thinking that all of you are so gullible that you're going to believe him. Maybe some of you believe him, right? Well, let me break this down for you. $2 billion in a hospital. He's talking about new equipment and so forth. But pause there for a moment. What the coalition did, when in fact that $2 billion hospital in Saudi, it's the brainchild of the coalition. The PPP for 23 years, they never gave a damn. They weren't telling you about that. But we'll get back to that shortly. So here's what the coalition did, and rightly so. They started to improve hospitals that are already in existence. Ensure that they're proper beds and all these different things, and more doctors and more nurses, and pay them far more than what they were being paid under the PPP regime. That is how the coalition government was concerned about the welfare of nurses, doctors, and the patients. You all remember also there were 3 patients on one bed, cloak up next to each other. You don't know what sort of sicknesses they may have, but they're going to put one here, they're going to put one in the middle, and one at the end. And that is all under the PPP regime. They can't say that this is propaganda. It is all documented. In fact, the maternity ward, one evening I visited the maternity ward at the Georgetown Public Hospital. not for personal reason, but to expose what was happening. I saw pregnant women, 2 and sometimes 3 pregnant women on one bed. I saw that, and it almost broke my heart. Under the PPP regime, those things happen. But yet Priya Manik-Chan and her cohorts want you to believe that they care. That they care about nurses. They care about doctors. When one of their cronies, one of those cronies, did a live and was cussing out the nurses, calling them hungry belly and all these sorts of things, all sorts of racial descriptions and these things. We never heard from Priya Manik-Chan. They weren't concerned. They didn't care about the nurses. They didn't care about the doctors. But because of the propaganda they want to spread to you, they're going to give you the impression that they care. In fact, they don't care. If you're now joining us, good evening and welcome to Straight Up. I have a heck of a lot to talk with you. We're going to get to that patient at the ICU in the COVID-19 hospital. Let's stick a pin and let's get to this here. This guy, Aubrey Norton, walking down the street to meet some of the people, I'm told, talking to the people, because you know he's running for the leadership of the PNC. He's one of a couple of folks that are running. And so he's out there to meet supporters, shake their hands. And I'm sure that he just didn't do that for no publicity stunt, because I doubt that Aubrey would do something like that. And I know for almost certain that it wasn't for that. He went there because he's genuinely concerned, like I'm sure the other candidates are or would be. But Aubrey was there on the scene. And the police saw him, a policewoman saw him. Somebody said her name is Boyce, last name Boyce, I don't know, but saw him and said, looky there, looky there. You know, like that calypso, they'll go, looky there, hold him, don't let him get away, right? And so they saw poor Aubrey Norton there going out to lend a hand, which is rightfully so. I hope lots of other leaders or those who are in the leadership bracket of the PNC and the coalition can go out there as well. A lot of the AFC folks, Kemraj Ramjatan, Patterson, David Patterson, and all these guys. David Patterson, good evening, if you're actually listening. So Aubrey went out there, and when Aubrey was out there, they throw a cast net, the police cast net, and say, one of the policewomen said, looky there, hold him, handcuff him, don't let him get away. Looky there, look, he's there. So Aubrey Norton was arrested along with 16 other persons, and they dragged these guys to the the Brickdam police station, held them there for over an hour, maybe 2 hours or so, and then they let them go on $10,000 station bail. $10,000 station bail. $10,000 station bail, right? Send them packing, and they have to return to court or attend court, on Friday. And now this is what I want you guys to do. I want you to see my kind of mischievous smile, right? This is what I want you guys to do. Maybe hundreds, but taking into consideration the coronavirus, you still got to practice social distance and also wear a mask. Wear a mask. Whether you are vaccinated or not, wear a mask and go out there in your numbers. I hope to see all of the APNU AFC members of parliament out there. Hope to see Kemraj Ramjatan out there as well. Hope to see them all out there, including my friend, David Patterson. I'm not picking on David, but we want to see all of them out there, including all 30 or 31 members of parliament for the APNU AFC. See them out there. Oh, yeah. And all of you who are watching as well, go out. This is not This is not about Aubrey Norton or the 16 persons who have been arrested. This is about justice. This is about democracy. You've got to go out there, because if the PPP believes, the installed regime, if they believe that they can get away with this, guess what? They are going to want to push their luck. They are going to try it again next week. They are going to try it again the following week, and until everyone they intimidate and arrest and all these things. But don't worry with them. Stand strong. The PPP is like a pussycat. Jack Dale and Irfan, they're like pussycats. Don't worry with how Irfan behave at that crowd like a hooligan in front of the Pegasus when he almost overturned the vehicle of Karen Cummings, who was then the Minister of Foreign Affairs, and her driver. I don't know if anybody else was in the back seat, but they almost killed those people. And the police was right there. The police didn't do anything. You see, that's something is wrong. Something is wrong with the Guyana police force. Something is definitely wrong with them. And now, I'm glad that those who have been arrested, all of the 17 persons arrested, some of them may be watching this program. We are glad that you guys are out. We don't want you to ever give up this struggle. We don't want you to ever become intimidated by the PPP and their goons. They are more with you guys than those against. There are more of us in support of you guys than those against. The PPP, they're basically a few, and they are against democracy. They are against this sort of things, free speech and all these things, and they want to muzzle you. Never. We must never to muzzle any one of us. We've got to take this position that if they arrest one, then put yourselves in a position for them to arrest all. That is how a struggle goes. When Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and others, they were walking in the streets and they were demonstrating and all these sorts of things. When one got locked up, all of them had to they forced the system. And look, the PPP are pussycats. They're afraid of that sort of struggle. But before we continue, I noticed my executive producer has signaled and say that we should get to the COVID-19 hospital and reveal what is happening in there, reveal even more. As you heard from the relatives of nurse Vanessa Maynard, you heard her voice notes. Well, we got some more information from that hospital, that dreaded hospital. And we will expose the hypocrisy of the regime. But before we do, here's what's happening. Let me welcome all of you again. I see some of your comments. I can't really look at all of them, but let me get to what we saw in Linden, other parts of Region 10, and other parts of Guyana. You know what? The PPP and Afraz Osman, good evening. Let me say this to you guys. The PPP is afraid of this economic boycott. Why are they afraid of the economic boycott? It is because it is a silent killer in terms of those people who don't like you, who don't like us, who don't support us, whether it's via the radio station or whatever. They don't support us. Look, we don't even have ads, man. But that's another story. I'm not here to complain about that, right? But we will survive, and we are surviving by every and any legal means necessary. We are surviving, right? We're not in the pockets of anybody. We don't take bribes. We don't write propaganda. We speak truth. And you know what I mean? We don't write propaganda, but we speak truth. I was hoping to have the acting leader of the opposition, Roysdale Ford, Member of Parliament Roysdale Ford, and also senior counsel with us. But he's not here at the moment. Hopefully our executive producer can find him. I know he has had a very busy schedule. Lots of things happen today in Guyana, and I'm pretty sure lots of things will happen tomorrow in Guyana. And so back to this economic boycott. It works. Be careful how you spend your money. You see, this is, what is this? Don't even know what it is. This is 5,000 Guyana dollars. Maybe you can't see that well, but it's 5 and this is 1, so that makes it 6,000. You see, I can count. And I've had this $6,000 for almost a year or over a year. And guess what? I haven't spent it. I haven't spent it. In fact, I can go into Sibyl's and these places and probably it could probably work, but I haven't spent it. And I'm not going to spend it. And I can give it to people to take back to Guyana and so forth, but I didn't give them. Because if I give it to them, they're going to spend it, right? And maybe they'll spend it at places that I don't think that is worth spending your money. So this economic boycott, it is serious and it will penetrate the hearts and the pockets and the bank accounts of the oppressors. Because if they don't like us, and if they don't want to support us, and if they don't advertise with us, why should we stress in supporting their businesses? As simple as that. If they want to close their doors, let them close their doors. I'm going to get back to that probably sometime later down in the program. Something that I want to get at. I noticed Shirley Mitchell is saying no Christmas, boycott Christmas. A lot of things that we have to boycott, a lot of businesses boycott, because if they boycott radio stations that are pro-opposition, and I have absolutely no apologies to make. This radio station, 107.1 FM, it's the people's station. It is where you get the truth. And if we lean towards the coalition because we're exposing the truth, well, so be it. And if those folks in the private sector and so forth don't want to advertise with us, if those big businesses that are in bed with the PPP regime don't want to advertise with us, we don't care. We don't beg them. If they advertise, they advertise. But we're not going to bow. We're not going to stoop to them. We don't beg them. We're bigger than that. But if you know businesses that want to spread the word and get their businesses heard or seen by thousands and thousands of people, why waste your money on PPP propaganda platform? Those PPP propaganda platforms that do not have the reach as we do. And even if some of them have the reach, guess what? It's kind of like a rum shop brawl. Why would you want to associate your business with a rum shop brawl? I don't know. All right, so let's get back to this here now. I want to talk about the hospitals. And if Irfan Ali is watching and others, they are talking about a $2 billion hospital, 254 beds, and they don't take care of what they have. We're going to get to this here just now. This is a patient in the ICU unit at the COVID-19 hospital in Liliendale. Now, this is heartbreaking. You're going to get firsthand, well, some of you and your relatives may have, shared their experiences there at the COVID-19 hospital. Those who made it out, those who were lucky, or those who are lucky to have made it out there alive. And let me say this. Vanessa Maynard, that was on, in terms of her voice note, her relatives were on the other night. They spoke about this here. This is the oxygen cylinder. Most patients cry out. They don't get enough oxygen. The oxygen mask that they use is very heavy. The mask, the oxygen mask, is very heavy. Folks complain that they can't breathe, and the regime doesn't look into anything. They use you see, this here This here, what they use is the heavy oxygen mask. It prevents the patients from breathing properly or even speaking, right? Instead, they should have gotten the nasal cannula. And the nasal is very simple. It's very inexpensive. It gets the job done. It is far more effective than that big kind of mask that they use. And now let's look at the cylinders, the oxygen cylinders. $200 can get you some big ones, some good ones. $200 can get you these things. If Air Finale and all of these folks are watching, why is it that they can't stock up? If they are serious about battling the COVID-19 virus at the Liliendahl Hospital, then they would show citizens that they are serious by stocking up with these oxygen cylinders. They're inexpensive. Why is it they can't get about 50 of these cylinders? 50 of these cylinders right there, instead of having just a couple. I don't know, something is wrong with the catfish regime. And now I'm showing you the price for that because this nurse, she's dead, right? Vanessa Maynard complained about the oxygen and the cylinder, the oxygen cylinder and so forth, not having sufficient for her oxygen for her. And this is the photograph. You see it there for yourselves. So we're not spreading propaganda here. You see the condition of the hospital, right? You're seeing it for yourselves. So this is not propaganda, mind you. Look at what is happening there. Look at the oxygen mask and look at how the patients have to, or what they have to go through at that hospital. So I'm giving them time. This is not a propaganda show or anything of that sort. It is not. It is where we speak the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. The other thing that Nurse Vanessa Maynard complained about was that CT scan. Every time there's a patient at the COVID-19 hospital, he or she has to be rushed out of the hospital even when they are in ICU. So they are in ICU. They have to be removed from ICU, placed into an ambulance. That is, if an ambulance is available. And then the separate kind of ambulance that they have, maybe one or two, and they call it the COVID-19 ambulance, the COVID ambulance. They have to wait for that COVID ambulance to go to the COVID-19 hospital, place the patient, remove that patient from ICU, place that patient or take that patient all the way down, straight into the COVID ambulance, and then take that chance to drive that patient all the way to Mercy Hospital for a CT scan. Now, the question is, if these folks in the catfish regime are so concerned about citizens, why is it that the COVID-19 hospital, here it is, the COVID-19 hospital built by the coalition government, came into existence, the COVID-19 hospital, under the coalition government. Since the coalition government was put out of office and these folks were installed, nothing else was done to that hospital. In fact, it was run down, completely run down. That is why people are dying every single day. 10, 9, 8, 7, 5, 4, and so forth. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 daily. It is probably over 60 persons have already died, and we are only on the 13th day of September. 13th day of September, and over 60 persons have died. And now, the other thing that the regime wants to tell you and brainwash you guys, you see the kind of reports that are coming out, right? They're not saying that COVID-19 patients have died. They're telling you guys that unvaccinated persons have died. unvaccinated persons have died. But they're not going to say to you, they're not going to show you guys the numbers or the records of vaccinated persons who became ill, who contracted COVID-19. Some of them have survived, thank God. But they're not going to say to you, you will probably never see a headline that says vaccinated persons, 2 or 3 vaccinated persons have died. You're not going to. I know of several cases right now in Guyana where persons who are fully vaccinated have the coronavirus in Guyana. Again, this is not a propaganda show. Many of you know that to be a fact, that persons who have been fully vaccinated, most of them with the Sputnik V, that Sputnik V, right, remains questionable. But those who have been vaccinated, fully vaccinated, I heard of 2 cases today. In fact, 3 cases today. 3 separate family members. They are saying that their loved ones were or are, vaccinated, fully vaccinated. Fully vaccinated. But the regime, they're not going to tell you that. They're going to continue with their propaganda and they're going to say, hey, guess what? Persons who have not been vaccinated have died. Persons who have not been vaccinated have died. Fully vaccinated persons have died. We see the trench crappos are out. Usually when they're out, you know for what purpose? They just come out and and that's it. So let us continue, right? So they're not going to have any headlines that fully vaccinated persons have contracted the virus, the coronavirus. They're not going to tell you that for obvious reasons, right? And now let's get back to the hospital. The CT scan. Let me give you guys an example. We spoke about this here, the cylinder, the oxygen cylinder, $200 US. You tell me they can't buy that? $200 US, 50 of these, and put them there at the COVID-19 hospital where people are dying every single day. Close to 700 or over 700, probably approaching 800 persons have died since these folks have taken office, albeit through questionable circumstances. They can't buy this. Look at the other thing here now. Folks, CT scan machine, they have to leave the hospital. They have to leave the COVID hospital and go to Mercy Hospital or wherever and spend over $60,000. Some spend $70,000 just to get a CT scan. And you know, when you get a CT scan, it gives you an ID. Everything it shows, your lungs, your heart, if you have a heart, every single thing it shows, the problems and so forth. And a CT scan is important during this process. Persons who have been diagnosed with the coronavirus, they get a chance with a CT scan. You get to see what is happening with the lungs, because they have some white substance that usually takes over the lungs and the edges and so forth and so on. Without a CT scan, you can't know properly what is going on. You don't expect the doctors to just pop up and get a lighter or get a torchlight and what is it? And get this light and say, let's see what's going on in the body, in the stomach. You don't expect that, right? But that is what the catfish regime probably want. They want the doctors to operate like that. So there's no CT scan machine at the COVID-19 hospital. Imagine your sickly relatives in ICU have to be removed from the beds, put into an ambulance and rushed through traffic and rush to a hospital, Mercy Hospital, just to get a CT scan. Imagine that. But they love to talk about how much they care for citizens. They love to talk about how much they care for the nurses and the doctors. We know they don't. Look, this is one CT scan. It's 2008, made in 2008. It is $80,000. I repeat, $80,000. You're telling me that Irfan Ali, they cannot have 2 or 3 or 4 CT scan machines at the COVID-19 hospital? 8 of them? Under the coalition, they had about 4. Georgetown Public Hospital had 1. New Amsterdam Hospital another. I believe one in Mackenzie Hospital. But yet, all of the patients have to be removed from the COVID-19 hospital and taken away, distance away, for a CT scan under the conditions that they are kept there at the ICU. Look, that is just one CT scan machine. This is another one, $57,000. $57,000. $500,000, they can buy about 4 or 5, 6, whatever amount. They can do it, but they don't want to do it. It appears as though they want people to continue dying every day. And yet they come with their crocodile tears as though they really care. Look at this, crocodile tears. Priya Manichan. She is saying here, and I quote, "To the doctors and the nurses working tirelessly at the COVID hospital, we see you. We know what you have been doing for us. We are a grateful nation. We love you. Those who attack you are cowards with access to the Facebook Live feature." Give me a damn break, but cowards. They're calling people cowards. Remember, it was Freddie Kissoon who said that I'm a coward of all person, Freddie Kissoon. So now Priya Manichan is using this coward word, this word now to describe all those of you, all those of us who basically have been saying and continue to say that they are doing a horrible job at the COVID-19 hospital, and those nurses and doctors are also feeling the pressure. Look at this, another machine, 2007 made, $77,000. Shame on the PPP regime. Shame on them. Shame on them for not having or equipping, have the COVID-19 hospital equipped with these sort of equipment. Shame on them. All right. For those of you who are now joining us, my name is Mark Benshap. Look at this patient. Look at this patient. Look at this patient. Oh, Father, just take a look at that patient. Tell me, what do you see? I'll look at some of your comments. What do you see? What can you see? Just imagine all of them in the COVID-19 hospital with that mask, that oxygen mask on their face. Oxygen mask. And sometimes when these folks are asleep, they have to hold on. They have to find a way to hold on to their oxygen mask. Why? Well, I want those folks in the catfish regime to hear why. Because if they don't hold on to their oxygen mask, guess what? It is going to be removed and put on another patient, because there are very, very few oxygen masks there. But yet Irfan Ali and Frank Anthony and so forth, they're not going to tell you guys this. They may say this is propaganda, but they're not going to tell you guys that that is exactly what is happening there. Just imagine, right? Just imagine what's going on there. Just imagine. Patients are dying. Here, one of the patients. And this thing is absolutely serious. Look at what's going on there. And yet they say they care. They don't care. They have lost the battle in saving the lives of people. And they have gone on this propaganda platform to tell people that people are dying because they're unvaccinated. but yet they're not doing anything to save lives other than publishing in their propaganda website that people have died because they are unvaccinated. I don't know.
Rough night. Being to sleep, being to my home. Sleep, I feel better.
All right. So this is a patient that in the ICU that the question was asked, how are you feeling? Tell us, explain. How are you feeling? Listen carefully. Please listen. Let us know if you're hearing us loud and clear. If you're hearing this, what the patient has said.
Rough night. Being to sleep, being to my home. Sleep.
All right. I just want to ensure that you guys are hearing loud and clear, right? The question was, how are you feeling? How are you feeling? How are you feeling? I noticed the trench crappos, they have nothing much to say, right? Nothing much to say because they themselves are ashamed. They themselves, and I hope that some of those trench crappos who are talking basically or who are criticizing what is being done, I hope they don't end up at the COVID-19 hospital because they will see firsthand. It's not easy at all. Listen to this patient.
I feel better. Rough night. Being to sleep, being to my home. Sleep, I feel better.
Pain, 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 pain. Rough night. Can't sleep. Noisy. The mask on their faces. All these sort of things. It's horrible. It's a shame and a disgrace that is a country that they love to always remind people that it is an oil-rich country. It is an oil-rich, really? An oil-rich country that doesn't have a CT scan machine at the COVID-19 hospital? And that patients have to cry out for pain upon pain? Listen. You know, fighting to breathe, fighting to survive. These are questions asked to the patient. I see some of you are surprised at this big mask. Listen to what the patient is trying to say. And I wish all of the patients, all of them at the COVID-19 hospital, in the ICU, and even those who probably are recovering at home too, I wish all of you guys a speedy recovery. All of you. I feel your pain. My prayers are with all of you. But that is why I want every one of you relatives and friends listening, I want all of you guys to know this. The PPP regime doesn't care about you and your loved ones suffering as a result of their negligence. I'm trying to find out what this patient is saying. I asked, can you repeat? Can you repeat? But this is what. The machine is beating. The mask is heavy. Hardly any oxygen to breathe. The person is saying, hey, Mark, I am still here. I am still here. That is what people are saying in the COVID-19 hospital. I am still here. I can't breathe. I want to survive. That is what they are saying. I see that there's a trench crapo, right? is saying that this is not Guyana. Who am I fooling? They are in denial. They don't want the truth to be heard. This is Guyana. Why on earth would I want to come and spread propaganda? This is Guyana. This is someone right there at the ICU. Here is what the person is saying. But of course, they are going to come up with their fake pages and all these things to say that it is not true. That it is not true. It is the truth. Listen. In this heavy mask, under that heavy mask, struggling to breathe, he is saying COVID is not an easy sick. COVID is not an easy sick. That is what the person is saying. It is not easy. And I want all of you, every single one of you, vaccinated or not vaccinated, I want every single one of you to know that COVID is not easy indeed. This is exactly why I have this program here tonight, to let you guys hear what is happening with the patients at the COVID-19 hospital so that betterment can come. They need oxygen cylinders. They need a CT or 2 or 3 CT scan machines at that hospital. Listen to this patient. Listen to this patient, please. COVID sick is not easy sick. It is a terrible sick. COVID sick. COVID sick is not an easy sick. It's a terrible sick. Listen some more. Crying in tears. Crying in tears. Don't know whether he's going to make it or not. Saying that I am here. I am still here. Fighting to survive. And you have a goddamn installed regime that is playing politics with people. Playing politics with the citizens. Don't give a damn. But all they're pretending as though they care. They just want people to run. Just go and get vaccinated. And that's it. That's what they think. That getting vaccinated is going to solve the problem. Prevention. Whether their people are vaccinated or not. I am vaccinated. It's my choice. And I hope that people would become vaccinated as well. But it is their choice if they don't want to be vaccinated. I can't force that down people's throat. But even as someone who's vaccinated, I also am very cautious. I wear my mask and so forth. I practice social distance. All of you should do that as well. But the PPP regime is not concerned about that message. They're more concerned about telling people, just go and get vaccinated. You don't know how the vaccines are being stored in that country. Every minute, blackouts upon blackouts upon blackouts upon blackouts. Forget about the Sputnik V. We all know that it is questionable. I have a friend out on the quarantine originally from Brighton Village, who has lived many years at Port Morant. He died today. You know what his wife told me? That he took the first dose. He was fully vaccinated. And this is no propaganda. He took the first dose of Sputnik V, right? He took the first dose of the Sputnik V. The first dose of the Sputnik V he took. And she, in tears this morning, she said, almost 3 months before he got the second dose. Almost 3 months before he got the second dose. And every time he went for the second dose after the time frame, which was, I believe, a month or so, each time he would go for his second dose, you know what they will say to him on the quarantine? Then I guess Sputnik V yet. They will wait for government to bring them. They don't have the Sputnik V as yet. They're waiting for the government to bring it in. And you know why the government couldn't bring it in? Because of their negligence. They sat with this guy, came up with some deal, some middleman deal. And during the course of this middleman deal, they couldn't get to deliver on time. So the Sputnik V came almost 3 months late. Almost 3 months late. By the time it got there, and for it to get out to places like the quarantine and other places, guess what? I don't know whether the second dose would have done the trick. I don't know. But it is questionable. But my friend, Ernest Alert, was fully vaccinated. Now, he had other health complications. I don't know what the cause of death is, but they suspected that he had COVID-19 also. But they're not going to report that. Air Finale, they're not going to report that this guy, my friend, Ernest Alert, was fully vaccinated. Someone I knew since we were kids. Fully vaccinated. They're not going to tell you that. Another case with another guy, an elderly guy on the quarantine, fully vaccinated. Another young lady in Georgetown, fully vaccinated. They're not going to tell you guys that. They're not going to say that to you. Thankfully, of the 3 that I've mentioned that are fully vaccinated, 1 died. And that's my friend Ernest Alert. Condolences to his entire family, man. Originally from Brighton on the quarantine, but he married and he lived and has 3 or 4 beautiful children. The last, just 6 years old. My condolences to the family. And now let's go back. Let's go back to this guy, ICU at the COVID-19 hospital.
Crying. I can serious feeling from the sugar feeling badly. I don't know how to turn anymore. I'm ready to go now. Okay? I love you. Thank you.
Oh. But yet everything for these guys, they feel that people are spreading propaganda. The reason why I've shown that, and I have more, not only from that patient, but I have more. And you guys know that I'm not afraid to bring these things and air them. And one of the reasons why I'm airing some of these things, I can't air all of them. It's because I want those patients in the hospital, I want them to come out of there alive. All of them. But the reason why all of them are not going to be able to be out of there alive is because you have a careless and a heartless government installed and headed by Air Finale and his cohorts. They're not concerned about them. Have you heard or seen anything that the Minister of Health, Dr. Frank Anthony, who has 3 advisors being paid over $1 million every month, and 2 of whom are former ministers of health who wrecked the goddamn health sector. They are advising Frank Anthony. Have you heard that the Minister of Health toured that hospital or met with the nurses and the doctors at the COVID-19 hospital to show some appreciation for what they do and to ask them what they need? Those are things we need to hear, but we're not hearing that. What we're hearing is that they're grossly understaffed. A couple of nights back, there were 60-something patients and only 3 nurses to 60-something patients. Now, how the heck Do you expect to save lives? Frank Anthony, how the heck should we believe you guys when you say you care? When the evidence is right in front of our face that you guys don't care. That is why people are dying every single day. People are dying. You believe that nurse Vanessa Maynard should have died if she had proper care, if they had a CT scan machine there, instead of promising and promising and promising about ambulance is going to be there and the ambulance is going to take her to the hospital and all of these things. They have been waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting for the ambulance to take their loved ones or their loved one to the hospital. And so that woman waited for days. It never showed up. She paid for her CT scan. It was never done. The family, I hope they receive their what you call it, their $60,000 back. I hope they do, or they have. Here it is.
And he's not looking after me. Put on my light, and he take out my oxygen, and he assessed the situation. He asked me if I could walk. I said I could try. He said try, and I walked from the bed to the corridor and come back without feeling it, or without nobody holding me up. I walked by myself, but the oxygen saturation it dropped to 84. So I tell you, I suddenly start trembling because I think it's because of the insulin. And I eat nothing since medicine. He asked me if I want some tea or porridge, and I said I want some tea, so he got to get some tea for a drink. He's not dying. He seems to be okay. There's something. I don't give me nothing. She come and she text. She come and she took she took RDS. And she said it's 216. And she come back and she told me about the some insulin. Then when they asked me do I eat for the day, she gave me 60 legs of insulin. They should have done just low, there's nothing to eat. And they turn off the light on down. So then my little fella there, give me no treatment or nothing, right? They give the medication, the value, or medication and drink. But my stomach empty. So they just
That is so goddamn heartbreaking. Can you imagine a woman? We've heard these sort of stories before. They have denied it. But this is a nurse who died. She was hungry, nothing to eat, nothing to drink, no proper oxygen. It's the nurse, her voice, that's what she was saying. Begging to have a CT scan, asking where is the ambulance. They kept saying it coming, ambulance, COVID-19 ambulance, it coming, it coming, it coming, it coming. It never reached. She never got proper treatment. And she died. She died. Not a word from the Minister of Health. Not a phone call to the relatives. Nothing. No public sympathy for not only the nurse that died, but for the others. All they're saying and all they're concerned about is that people are unvaccinated. And they're putting that there to spread the propaganda, to tell you, to divert the attention from their negligence, their wreckage of the health sector. It continues, just as they have done for the 20-something years they have ruled Guyana. It continues. That negligence continues. COVID-19 hospital is without a CT machine. The COVID-19 hospital is short of oxygen cylinders. The COVID-19 hospital is short of nurses. The COVID-19 hospital is short of doctors, short of other staff members, short of beds, running out of space, and nothing, absolutely nothing is being done to address this situation. Shame on the PPPC regime. Shame on Irfan Ali. Shame on Frank Anthony. And that one who loves to talk about people don't care as though they're the only ones or as though they care. They don't care. They just don't care. I call on people to protect yourselves. If you want to be vaccinated, that's your choice. I am vaccinated. And those who are close to me and even friends and even some of you who are listening to this program, if you feel comfortable being vaccinated with the vaccines through the WHO, I think it's good. Forget about some of these things, but when you take the vaccine, men can't perform and all these sort of things. I'm a perfect example of, that is a myth. Perfect example that is a myth. But if you don't want to be vaccinated, still be safe. Stay away from people. And even if you are vaccinated too, still protect yourself. Put on a mask and these sort of things. Do what is right to save yourself and to save your family members as well. We've got to pray for Guyana. We've got to pray for a beautiful country. Notice all the ABC countries and the embassies, the head of missions and so forth, they're quiet. They're very, very quiet on a lot of issues. They're not going to be posting things on their Facebook pages. They're not going to be issuing joint releases and these sort of things. The days for those sort of things are long gone. They're not going to be doing those things. It means nothing. The violations and the human rights violations and all these things and the persecution of citizens, it means nothing to these folks. Absolutely nothing. That is why they are quiet. People seem more concerned about businesses. A guard complained, and I'll probably have that person on tomorrow night, that he was fired. He was fired as a security guard for a particular foreign embassy. It's not that I'm afraid to mention it. I just want to bring that out tomorrow. He was fired. No severance, no nothing. No severance, no nothing. He was fired. I'll tell you guys why he was fired. Kind of ticklish, but he was fired. Not that he stole or anything, But some people sometimes claim that they're sleeping, but they're not sleeping. Well, he apparently had his eyes closed, and they said that he was sleeping. He said that his eyes were closed. But they fired him. There's a foreign security company that is securing a particular embassy in Guyana. Caught this man sleeping, and they fired him. That security firm was actually in Guyana for about 5 years. The contract was up as of September 1st this year. It was extended until January. But according to the man, they're refusing to give him his severance. We'll speak with him tomorrow. But for now, I'll have to go. God bless you all. God bless our beautiful country. And my prayers for all those individuals who are suffering. I know some folks in the ICU. I know it's crowded. We've got to pray for those people. Some of them are home too. Not just in Guyana, but around the world. I don't know what else to say. But shame on Irfan Ali. Shame on the PPP. I await their propaganda. And anytime they come with their propaganda, I have more evidence. I have more stuff to dish out to them. They are a bunch of cowards, all of them. And those who write in support of them are cowards themselves. See y'all tomorrow. Be safe.
It's hard to be at peace with the ones who are so discard. It's hard. Them have a knife in your back and them smile it so broad. Help me to deal with the ones them who said them love me when them really don't. Help me to deal with the fans them kill me flesh when the crowd are shout. Jesus, help me on the battlefield. Jesus, help me on the battlefield. Help me on the battlefield. God, the booby traps with them set is real. I never want to take your glory, Lord. Send your angels to encamp around about me and stand guard. To envy is so easy and to love it is so hard. Let me work for your glory and not for the award. Don't make me ever get caught up in the scream and the applause. And go talk about the blessing and not talk about the Lord. All these things are vanity. I need your reward. Let me be real. Don't put on no facade. Help me to deal with the ones them who said them love me when them really don't. Help me to deal with the fans them give me flesh when the crowd are shout. Jesus, help me on the battlefield. Jesus, help me on the battlefield. Help me on the battlefield. God, the booby traps with them set is real. Sticks and stones can break my bones and words can harm me. They can harm me. When the evil come against me, you'll protect me. You'll protect me. Father, I need the strength of your son. Cause you know my work is not done. Lord, I need that endurance just to finish this race that I run. Help me to deal with the ones them who said them love me when them really don't. And help me to deal with the fans them kill me flesh when the crowd are shout. Jesus, help me on the battlefield. Jesus, help me on the battlefield. Help me on the battlefield. God, the booby traps with them set is real. You tell me if you stand firm, cause every little plan you have a confirm. I know them evil plan turn. In a darkness, me a the long term. So help me to deal with the ones that who said them love me when them really don't. Jesus, help me to deal with the fans them kill me flesh when the crowd are shout. Help me on the battlefield. Jesus, help me on the battlefield. Help me on the battlefield. God, the booby traps with them set is real. Help me to deal with the ones them who said them love me when them really don't. Help me to deal with the fans them kill me flesh when the crowd are shout. Jesus, help me on the battlefield. Jesus, help me on the battlefield. Help me on the battlefield. God, the booby traps with them set is real. Help me to deal with the ones them who said them love me when them really don't. Help me to deal with the fans them